Hi everyone, my name is Wong Jialin, metric number A217804. Today, I want to talk about how we should stop glorifying pain and that struggle isn't a badge of honor. Imagine this, you walk into class and someone says, I've only had 3 hours of sleep. And another one says, I haven't been eating all day, I've, I've been studying. And instead of concern, we admire them. We nod and we say, wow, that's dedication. Somehow, exhaustion has become proof that we are trying hard enough, and somehow suffering has become something that we are proud of. But here's the question we don't ask often enough. Since when did hurting ourselves become a requirement for success? As students, many of us live this reality every day. We measure our effort not by how effectively we work, but by how much we suffer. And that mindset is not just unhealthy, it is deeply misleading. Today, I will argue that we need to stop glorifying pain because struggle is not a badge of honor. In recent years, mental health issues among young people have risen significantly, with stress, burnt out, and anxiety become increasingly common. We are living in a culture where exhaustion is praised and suffering is often mistaken for success. And as students, many of us have experienced this pressure firsthand. We have stayed up all night to finish assignments, skipped meals to meet deadlines, or felt guilty for taking breaks. Many of us have probably measured our effort not by how effectively we work, but by how much we suffer. As a student who has experienced academic pressure and examined research in psychology, productivity, and education, I will be drawing from both personal experience and credible academic sources to analyze how this mindset affects us and why it needs to change. Society must stop glorifying struggle because it harms mental health, distorts our understanding of success, and prevents us from pursuing healthier and more effective paths to achievement. First, I will explain how society promotes the belief that suffering is necessary for success. Next, I will show how this mindset harms mental health and creates unhealthy cycles of overworking. And finally, I will demonstrate that success does not require suffering and that healthier, smarter approaches lead to better outcomes. Now that we understand that how common this mindset is, let us examine where it comes from. Society romanticizes struggle and wrongly teaches us that suffering is proof of success. Let us think about the messages that we hear every day. No pain, no gain. Success requires sacrifice. Or even sleep is for the weak. Whether through social media, school, culture, or motivational content online, we are constantly exposed to the idea that the more we suffer, the more valuable our achievements become. Many influencers proudly share stories about surviving on 3 hours of sleep, working through weekends, and sacrificing their health to reach their goals. These stories are often presented as inspiring, but what they teach us is that suffering is not just normal, it is admirable. Research by Kevangren, 2021, challenges this belief. She argues that hustle culture promotes the myth that hard work alone guarantees success, while ignoring important factors such as opportunity, privilege, and access to resources. In another word, society oversimplifies success. We are taught that if someone succeeds, it must be because they suffered enough, and if someone fails, it must be because they did not work hard enough. But reality is much more complex. This message is reinforced so often that many young people begin to internalize it. According to Curran and Hill, 2019, perfectionism among young people has increased significantly over time due to growing societal pressure to constantly achieve and meet unrealistic expectations. So, as a result, many people no longer ask, am I learning or am I growing? Instead, they ask, am I struggling enough? And that is exactly where the problem begins. However, this mindset is not harmless. When society glorifies struggle, the consequences extend far beyond motivation and productivity. Glorifying struggle harms mental health by normalizing burnout, stress, and unhealthy cycles of overworking. When suffering becomes something we admire, people stop recognizing it as a warning sign. So instead of saying, I'm exhausted, maybe I need rest, people say, I'm exhausted, therefore I must be working hard. Research by Chong and colleagues 2025 found that student burnout is closely linked to prolonged academic stress and pressure. Burnout is not simply feeling tired. It involves emotional exhaustion, reduced motivation, and declining in well-being. Yet, many students treat burnt out as a badge of honor. During examination periods, it is common to hear students brag about surviving on caffeine, skipping meals, and pulling all-nighters. But the problem is that burnt out has become so normalized. Harvard Health Publishing 2024 describes this phenomenon as toxic productivity, the belief that our value depends on being productive at all times. This creates a really dangerous cycle. The more exhausted we become, the more we feel we must continue working. However, the more we rest, the more guilty we feel. And eventually, productivity becomes tied to self worth. And in extreme cases, the consequences can be devastating. Tomohiro 2026 discusses the phenomenon of karoshi in Japan, which literally means death from overwork. It emerged from culture that celebrated long working hours and constant sacrifice. About that for a moment. Society became so committed to glorifying hard work that overwork has become a recognized cause of death. That is why we must stop viewing suffering as evidence of dedication. Because when pain becomes something we celebrate, people stop seeking help, and start competing over who is suffering more. Fortunately, success does not have to come at the cost of our health. In fact, research shows that healthier and smarter approaches often produce better results. True success should be measured not by how much we suffer, but by how sustainably we grow and succeed. Many people assume that rest slows us down. Science says otherwise. Matthew Walker 2017 explains that sleep is essential for memory, learning, focus, and decision making. In other words, sacrificing sleep does not improve performance, it often reduces it. Rest is not the opposite of productivity. Rest is part of the productivity. Similarly, Carl Newport 2016 argues that focused and efficient work is far more effective than endless busyness. Success comes from meaningful concentration, not constant exhaustion. Working smarter is not laziness, it is effectiveness. Furthermore, success is influenced by more than personal effort alone. Research by Chetty and colleagues 2020 demonstrates that opportunities, environment, and social conditions significantly affect people's chances of success. This challenges one of the biggest myths behind hustle culture, the belief that suffering alone guarantees achievement. Many people work incredibly hard, but not all of them succeed because success depends on more than struggle. Finally, evidence from the OECD 2024 shows that countries with stronger work-life balance policies often maintain higher productivity while also supporting better well-being among their citizens. This proves an important point. We do not need to choose between success and health. We can have both. Review. So today, I have shown that society romanticizes struggle and teaches us that suffering equals success. I have also demonstrated that this mindset harms mental health by normalizing burnout, stress, and toxic productivity. Most importantly, I have shown that success does not require suffering because healthier and smarter approaches can lead to sustainable achievement. So, I would like to challenge all of you to rethink the way you define success. Stop admiring exhaustion, stop treating burnt out as an achievement, and stop believing that suffering automatically makes success more meaningful. Instead, value balance, value efficiency, and value well being. And when you need support, seek it because asking for help is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. And that is all from me. Thank you.